So I've just got a couple pieces for you. A poem, a longer poem, and then a longer poem that turns into some short fiction. This first one, I guess I don't know if you realize, if you've ever gone to other countries and watched the news, that oftentimes they show their dead on television, which to me is kind of crazy. So this one's called Televising the Dead. In other countries, they televise their dead. In Costa Rica, looking up from a breakfast of black beans and eggs, the boy still in the driver's seat, his body slumped with ending. They filmed him like he was still moving, as if different angles could better capture this static moment. The car had wrecked just meters from the coastline. And as poetic as a news cameraman could be, he finished the segment by panning out into the early morning ocean. Perhaps it is like happiness. The weight of the landing flattens you. Everything you've existed as up to that moment is now something else. We try to paint pictures of what it's like so that the others might know. But happiness doesn't depend on you or wait for you to place it into perspective. So our pictures are always blurry. They always look like chasing, like panning out into the early morning ocean. And this next piece is small poems from my fire escape throughout the day. Morning. The lump beneath the pile of blankets in the doorway began to stir and swell until the cotton bubble was popped by a skinny arm. From this small space, they filed out onto the sidewalk like clowns, pulling up their pants, pulling down their sleeves. I watched them from behind my blinds, seeing them sunken and used. As if it would comfort them, I tried my hardest to imagine them healthy, their cheeks chubby and knees meaty. The first one vanished beneath his oversized coat, and then into the steady trickle of pedestrians on Leavenworth. The other turned around, her blonde bob freshly combed and shining in the morning light. The sheen of her hair saddened me, the last glowing disparity in a body turned dull. It was proof of how quickly and deeply we can dissolve, and how when it happens, we can only hope our bodies hold on to the qualities that let everyone know we're still human. Afternoon. The Tenderloin is a stage. Everyone is desperate for a microphone and an ear. A mere glance in a person's direction is invitation enough for their observations, their comments, their opinions. They are seasoned performers and sharp critics. I took a seat at their theater as I sat on my fire escape and watched a fire slowly burn through the walls of a building on the corner of Leavenworth and O'Farrell. "And that's why you don't smoke crack in bed," came the resounding final thoughts from a man who looked like he had actually learned that lesson for himself. He directed a sardonic eyebrow lift into the air beside him, flicked his cigarette, and swaggered on. Night. John Cage once observed that in the dead of silence, two sounds still exist: the high pitch of your nervous system in operation and the low vibrations of your blood circulating. At 4 a.m., this is the closest we get to silence. The steady hum of cars like static, a symphony of faraway sirens turned to a soft drone. But buried beneath the Tenderloin's white noise is the heavy resonance of violent voices, the hardened sentiments of sadness, and a frustration that is only known to the early hours of the morning. So that last poem was about my apartment in the Tenderloin, and since I've lived there. I've written a couple pieces about it, and this next piece is portraits of 4 people who I've been lucky enough to encounter while I've lived there. It's called Tenderloin Portraits. Lillian. When I get drunk enough at the Geary Club, I start to flirt with Lillian. I tell her things like I did on this night, things like, I really love how you did your eyes. Lillian's the bartender. She has a dry, clumsy smile and always seems one drink shy of not being able to hold her head up. She's full of sass and floats between serving you the wrong drink and delivering incomprehensible rants under her breath. On this particular night, being equally as wasted, I ended up in the bathroom with Lillian offering me key bumps and applying eyeliner to every part of my eye. With a voice like wet sandpaper, she instructed, "It's easy, honey, like this." You can only imagine the precision she could have had, with one eye closed and her head bobbing unpredictably like a buoy at sea. All I know is I escaped from the jaws of an eyelash curler after my boyfriend swung open the bathroom door to find me cornered with a 5'1" cocaine cosmetologist attached to my eyelid. With black tears dripping down my cheeks and swollen eyes, I managed to fill my way out of the bar and surface onto the Tenderloin streets for safety. By this time, I looked like a doll whose automatic open-close eyes were on the fritz and had settled into a crazed mess of lashes and eyeballs, unsuitable to be looked at any longer, and so tossed into the Goodwill pile on Geary Street. Tutu. Tutu stays in Oakland, but he makes his living sitting at the corner of Geary and Leavenworth. His real name is Samuel Grant. He's handicapped and on welfare. And once he mentioned that his girl was beaten by the police in Oakland. I didn't ask whether he meant his daughter or his girlfriend. Both seemed just as tragic. Either way, he's gone now. When I ask him about his past, he just trails off, "Oh, I don't know too much." He believes his mom and dad are in heaven, and he believes people shouldn't come here from other towns and act like they run people's neighborhoods. We have to be good or bad, he says. I'm trying to do the good things. Maybe he's got the right idea. On the corner, he told me, "We're all a family, we're all the same, you know what I mean, we gotta get together." But when I asked him what his favorite things were, he said, being alone, having my privacy, and scary movies. I love scary movies. Ed Bowers. Ed Bowers once wrote a play while in his early 60s. Instead of being performed on a stage, several narrators were placed in separate corners of a dark room. A spotlight danced frenetically between them as each spit out lines of poignant brilliance mixed with a good story and things that didn't make sense. I imagined this to be the constant scene in his head. I met Ed after I sat down next to him at the 21 Club, a Tenderloin bar that attracts characters of habit, from poetry to junk. I bought his book from behind the bar for $5. He hosts an open mic there once a month, where he'll play the obligatory keyboard accompaniment to your poem. The first conversations I had with Ed were slurred over a cigarette and the slaughtered English that hovers like fog over the intersection of Turk and Taylor. I've seen Ed stare off into the distance while offering a verbal equivalent of "fuck you" to someone trying to bum a cigarette off of him. I've seen him drink to handle the dark room and spotlight of his mind, and I've seen Ed endeavor to read 20 pages of poetry to a bar of patrons who drank their manners and attention spans down with their ice cube-filled glasses of high life. He would read them verses like, "Hemingway was afraid of nouns. Hemingway loved war. War is full of verbs." And lines like, "The universe is so innocent, it thinks with its dick." Robert. He was smart, bald, heartbroken, and sitting on the stool next to mine at the Brown Jug. He told me about how he once lost his keys in a yellow cab, and how attached to those keys was a Swiss Army knife. "It was the last thing my ex-wife gave me as a gift, and I lost it," he said. "The only woman I ever loved." His inverted eyes looked to the past and finally came back full circle. At 19, I lost my virginity, then my hair, and now this. But that's what we do, he said. We just go out there and we lose things. Thank you.